terrible state to be in. So here we are faced with Feast of Tabernacles, which you haven't heard about anyway until you come in contact with me. A law, a high holy day that belongs to you as a so-called black man. Your high holy day, you're supposed to be celebrating the abundance of your crops. And you're so new to me as my babies. All of you are my babies. And I still have to hold you, change you, pet you, do all the things for you, feed you, give you bottles, prepare for you, because you're not yet ready to feed yourself. Something takes place inside the baby's head when he decides he wants to try to do it himself. Something has to take place in my people's heads before they ever dream of feeding themselves. It's pretty rough when you get a raise on your job and they raise your food bill twice as much as it was last year. You don't like it, but you don't want to grow it, do you? You've been taught to hate growing it, haven't you? And the source of all wealth comes from the land. That's what Feast of Tabernacles teaches me to teach you. The source of all wealth comes from the earth. And the first step in controlling your own destiny as a people is to control your own land. And we don't have to move to another country. We don't have to move to another location. We don't have to have a state given to us. We can just take what we want where we are. When you have that kind of mind, the baby just begins to taste that spoon. He doesn't care whether he's in Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, California, or Florida. Give me the spoon. He'd have no question about what he wants. Food where he is. And he wants to do it himself. So Feast of Tabernacles immediately brings to our mind that we are to be celebrating an abundant crop as a people, and yet we're not. So that means we have to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles from another perspective at this time. Wouldn't it be glorious if we owned a few thousand acres of orchards, apple trees, thousands of acres of orange trees, thousands of acres of banana trees, and all the fruits you can think of, the pears and the avocados and the pecans. We've had those things in our yards. Our grandparents had those things in our yard. In fact, that's how we survived, is our grandparents had pigs and cows and goats and a couple of sheep and 200 or 300 chickens. Grew a garden every year. Anybody remember those days? Remember. And all that you could not eat during the season, what happened to it? Canned it. When did you eat it? In the winter. How much money did your grandparents have to spend at the grocery store growing the garden? None. How much do you have to spend at the grocery store now that you... And you wonder why you're suffering. You wonder why you're poor. You wonder why you don't have enough. It's because you have abandoned your God, who teaches you to plant in the earth and let him multiply it for you, sometimes 100-fold. That means you get a watermelon that has 400 seeds in it, and you plant one seed, and it gives you a vine with 20 watermelons on it. Can you imagine if you get 20 in the place of one? What would happen when you plant 400 out of just one watermelon? What if you planted 10% of your crop next year? You need to buy some more land just to plant your seed. And the wealth from the watermelons that you sold would enable you to buy more land, which would only make you poorer, richer. But you don't like that idea, because buying a farm means work. So the Feast of Tabernacles is not simply a time whereby we gather together in a building and we sing, we dance, we shout praises and glory to Yahweh's name. But it is also a remembering session. Aside from it being a unified session, it's a session where we remember and we give thanks. But what about this abundant crop? Well, as I said a moment ago, something is going to have to take place in the mind of your baby head before we can think about going back to the land and feeding ourselves physically. We're first going to have to learn how to feed ourselves spiritually. We're going to have to first let a spiritual renewing take place in our mind. We're going to have to be spiritually renewed in the spirit of our mind. Where? Ephesians 4:23. Ephesians 4:23. And let's start at verse 22. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 22. Now, let us read.
As you put off concerning the former conversation, the old man, which is corrupt, according to the deceitful lust.
Read.
And be renewed in the spirit of your mind.
Read.
And that ye put on the new man, which after Yahweh is created in righteousness and true holiness.
Read.
Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another.
Read.
Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
Read.
Neither give place to the devil.
Read.
Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands, the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth.
Read.
Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearer.
Read.
And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Yahweh, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption.
Read.
Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice.
Read.